Hey, what's up? Today I have an interesting topic for you. This is one that I talked about very briefly in my last video, which was all about the content you consume affects who you become. Today I wanted to talk more specifically outside of content and more on the thing I think is way more important, which is the people you surround yourself with and the people you spend the most time with. Because you see, there's this quote, maybe you've heard of it. You become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm not sure if you've heard that before, but I've heard that more times than I'd like to count. And it really got me thinking, why? Why do you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with? And I think, well, for one, there's a few reasons for it. And we're going to dive into that, and also why it's so important that you surround yourself with the right people. First off, why in the world do we become like the people we spend the most time with? The answer to that might be obvious, but I just kind of want to break it down a little bit and really kind of get you thinking about it. And the reason I believe you become like the people you spend the most time with is it's just kind of human nature. Like, really think about it. Imagine it's 100, 200, 300, how many years ago you want to go back. In order to really thrive, you had to have a good support group of people around you to help you become a better person, to help you in times of need, to really just support each other. You know, we are creatures that need each other. We are social creatures that, like, without human interaction, we go like mentally insane. So that's kind of the first point here. We are very social creatures and we need other people. So the reason why we become like the other people that we spend the most time with is because, think about this. The people that you spend the most time with are probably the most important people in your life. At least I'd hope so. You know, there's definitely exceptions to that, like, oh, maybe you work a job that you don't really like and there's people that you don't really like that type of thing, and maybe those are some of the people that you spend the most time with. Well, in that case, the circumstances can be a little bit different, but the general principle still applies. You see, for the people that you spend the most time with, you most likely respect them, and you like them, and you don't want to really let them down. Whether you realize it or not, you will subconsciously even go out of your way to do things, at least do things in a way that will just please them a little bit more, because you don't want to disappoint the people around you because of that innate fear that's ingrained inside of us. That's like, if I disappoint this person, and this is like my fellow, you know, like, this is someone that I'm close with, that I get support from, and, you know, we have that bond, that connection, you know, hopefully the people that you spend time with, you have, you know, some respect for them and you like them, that type of thing, and you don't want to let them down because of that. Therefore, you might end up doing things that maybe you don't necessarily want to do, but you do it for them, and that can be good and bad. Think about this. You are tired after a long day, but you get home, or, you know, like, you're finishing up at work, and maybe your coworker that maybe you respect and really like, maybe it's your friend, they're like, hey, could you, like, help me out with this one thing so maybe I can get out of here sooner too? And it's like, ugh, maybe you don't really want to do it, and, you know, perfectly understandable, it's like extra work and stuff. But if it's someone you like and respect, and it's one of the people that you spend the most time with, you'll end up probably being like, you know what, sure, I'll help you out, even if you don't want to. And yet, by the time it's over, you'll probably feel better about yourself, and, you know, you'll make the other person feel better as well. That's a positive way of interpreting it. But then there's also the negative, which is, oh, maybe you don't really like to go out and party or anything like that, but, oh, you know, the people that you spend time with, that, you know, you call your friends, they're like, hey, you want to come out and party with us? We're gonna get crazy tonight. And it's like, if you're someone who doesn't like to do that type of thing, but the people that you spend time with, that you're around all the time, are into that, then you're like, well, maybe I should go. Or maybe you don't go, but maybe you'll get asked again and again, or maybe they'll, like, you know, they'll be like, hey, just come on, it'll be fun, you don't have to do anything, you know, no drinking, no drugs, none of that, you could just come and hang out with us. And then, oh, maybe you end up going, and now you're in an environment that you don't want to be in. And now in this environment, you've already kind of gone a little bit farther down the rabbit hole. You're already there. You might as well just have one sip, you know? One sip of alcohol is not going to hurt. At least that's probably what the people around you will say. And then before you know it, you may have made some choices that you're not the most happy with. And I'm not saying this goes for everybody, that, you know, your friends are going to peer pressure you to do things. And if that's the case, you probably should find new people to be your friends. Maybe those aren't your real friends. And one thing that I've heard is, like, sometimes you just surround yourself with people because you bond over a substance or a specific thing, being drugs, alcohol. I mean, it could even be just like video games, which I'm not here to hate on video games, trust me. I've made my mistake of doing that in the past. But it's more along the lines of, if you don't really have a friendship or a connection with a person outside of the thing that kind of brought you together, maybe you might want to do a double check there, a double take. Be like, is this person really someone I should be spending this much time with? Is this really a person that's going to make my life better? And if not, maybe take a step back from them, or do things differently so you don't put yourself into situations where you might fall into doing things that you'll regret. There's something that is talked about in, you know, the Bible and, you know, religion and stuff. And, you know, I'm not here to push anything on anybody, of course not. That's never my goal. But what's really interesting is they talk about how you can do things in such a way to prevent you from falling into sinning. So take, for example, lust. Okay, this is a bit of a, I feel like, a pretty universally struggled with sin, per se. And, you know, you do what you want. This is just an example I'm bringing up because I feel like it kind of goes well here. If you put yourself into a situation where you might end up doing something you regret. So if you like end up putting yourself in like the party situation, for example, we'll go back to that. And it's like, okay, now you're in this scene and, oh, you meet someone and then they're also drunk and you're like, you're not thinking clearly. And because of that, all these things have led up to you maybe hooking up with this person. And it's like, sure, the party itself could have been good. It could have been fun. And maybe you actually enjoyed it. Great. But the downside comes really when you really think about it. It's like, if I didn't go to that party, if I didn't put myself into that situation, I wouldn't have had the temptation to go and do these other things that I may regret. And it's like, that's just an example, but I feel like that's really something to think about. The people that you surround yourself with will influence you, whether you'd like to admit it or not. It just kind of seems to be like a fact of life. At least that's what I've observed, and that's what I've experienced. Even with being someone who's like, I don't have any issues with anything. Like, I could hang out with people that I don't agree with and like what they do and still be fine and not be influenced by them. But even then, I'm like, oh wait, now maybe like if these people are doing things that I don't agree with, maybe I end up doing something that I don't agree with. And it's like, it can really spiral. It's really the moral of this topic here is just beware of the people that you spend time with, because odds are they're going to influence you. And if you're spending time with the wrong people, you could really have your life be devastated in ways that you don't even think could happen, because things spiral. Things start off as one thing, could be innocent and fine and just fun, and the next thing you know, you're doing something you'll regret. And it's just something to really think about and be like, hey, if I go and do this thing with these people, are they gonna especially be like pressuring me to do something? Or even if they're not, am I gonna be putting myself into a situation where I might end up doing this thing that I don't like to do anyway? And that's just something to think about. And I don't want to say everything is all bad, don't have fun, don't do anything. Of course not. I'm just here to be like, hey, maybe just take an extra minute here, think about like if this is something that is really the best idea, and make sure that the people that you surround yourself with don't end up being the wrong people, because it's very easy to fall into the wrong crowd of people. I see it all the time. It's kind of happened with me before, and you really gotta be like your own person and really see like, okay, I am enough of myself. I know myself enough to be like, I understand the fact that being influenced by other people is going to happen in some way. It really just depends on how you go about dealing with that. I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I do want to say, I've been talking a lot about the negatives, but there's a lot of positives. If you surround yourself with the right people, you just become so much better. This is something that I've learned from experience. when I surround myself with people that aren't really, striving for much and aren't really the happiest people, I kind of feel myself slipping a little bit, not becoming as productive, not doing the things that I know I should and want to be doing. And I kind of end up becoming more like them over time. But when I surround myself with the people that are really good for me, that are supportive and positive and just good role models, people that I look up to, that's when life becomes so incredible that it's like, wow, the positive effect that people can have on you is absolutely insane. Like if you have someone in your life that doesn't work out, this is just an example that I think is really decent here. If you have someone in your life that you spend like a lot of time with, maybe your best friend or something, he doesn't work out, but you do. Well, guess what? If you maybe don't really feel like going to the gym, and you're talking with him, and he's like, "Yeah, you don't really have to go. You kind of work. You worked out yesterday. It's not a big deal. You can take an extra rest day or something like that." And you're like, "You know what? Yeah." Or whatever. Maybe you just end up not going to the gym because you're just like, yeah, he's got a point. Maybe I should just take a rest day. I'm kind of like extra sore, that type of thing. And hey, honestly, maybe a rest day is needed, but just in this case, you just decide not to go. Now compare that to someone that you're really close with that does work out, and they're going. You know what happens? I know this from experience. You may not feel like going to the gym, but as soon as the other person is like, "Hey, you coming? You going?" You're just like, all right, it's go time to go get shredded, and then you end up going. This is a small example, but this is something that I've experienced firsthand, especially, that it's like so clear that I'm just like, wow. When you have someone who just goes to the gym and is planning on going, and they ask you like, "Hey, you going to the gym?" Even if you weren't gonna go, like you were planning, "Yeah, I just won't go," just the fact that that person asks you may get you to go anyway. Not even being like guilted into going or anything. Like, this is something that's happened with me, like with my dad. Like, my dad and I go to the gym a lot, and like sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to go, and I don't even tell him that or anything. He's just like, "Hey, you going to the gym?" And I'm just like, I don't know. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then I'm like, "You know what? No, I'm gonna go." Or sometimes he asks me and I'm just like, I was thinking no, but now I'm like, sure, you know what, let's just do it. Because I have someone else, kind of that accountability partner. And accountability for the things that are important to you is massive. I think I've said what I wanted to say. Just be careful with who you surround yourself with. Be careful of who you're closest to, because it can drastically affect your life, at least over time. And you most likely will be influenced, whether you realize it or not. Even if you're very sure of yourself and you're like, "You know what, I can go do this thing without being swayed in any way." I've thought that, and then I've been swayed without even realizing it. A lot of times it's subconscious. But with that all being said, I really hope you maybe got a good takeaway today, and maybe just think a little bit more about the people in your life, the people that you spend the most time with. Are the people that you spend time with making your life better or worse? And how can you maybe work with these other people to be a more positive influence in your life if they're not as positive? Do you need to like take a step back for them? Can you be like, "Hey," like maybe go to your friend and be like, "Hey, you want to just start working out?" Like, that's a random example, but maybe that's something. I know I've kind of been rambling today, but I think it's a very important topic to really think about more. And if you have any questions about this and want to look into it more, I highly encourage it. With everything that I've said today, I want to end it with a verse from the Bible, just because, honestly, whether you're religious or not, there is a lot of good things that just make you think about how you can improve your life, and I highly recommend it whether you believe in God or not. Here's the verse for today. Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. Basically, make sure you surround yourself with the iron of people that will make you sharper, make you better, and not with the wood that will dull you out. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.